double laptop right now. Okay, we are good to go.
Okay. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. My name is Antoinette, and I'm chair of the Joshua Johnson Council. It's one of the oldest African-American Friends groups, which is an affiliate with the Baltimore Museum of Art. And we've been around for a number of years, about 36 years. But one of our colleagues, Rose, is going to go into the membership, which will also give you a bit of the history of the organization. So I won't repeat that, but I will thank you for joining us this evening and for your participation in what is going to be a wonderful conversation with artists who are really on a huge trajectory for their careers. And this is something we 100% support as this local artist group is affiliated with the museum. For that, I will say, Rose, if you would take it away and talk about JJC membership and how folks could get involved with JJC and some of the other programs that we do engage in. Rose.
Yeah. Good evening, I'm Rose McNeil, and I'd like to welcome you to another exciting and informative Joshua Johnson JJC Talks. And we are thrilled that you took the time out of your busy schedule to hear from tonight's guests. Our live stream artist talks promise to broaden your knowledge and experience of contemporary art made by artists of African descent. As you already know, the Joshua Johnson Council is one of the oldest African-American museum support groups in the US, and we are currently celebrating our 36th year. The JJC is named after the 18th century African-American portrait artist or painter, Joshua Johnson, who lived and worked in Maryland. It is our mission to forge meaningful connections between Baltimore's African-American communities and the Baltimore Museum of Art by promoting and highlighting the achievements of African-American artists. The JJC membership offers a wide range of opportunities for active participation within a network of friends and colleagues dedicated to art. Our members share a passion for African-American art, and we are artists, art lovers, museum goers, collectors, educators, students, docents, and others who care about connecting with artists and the community or the museum. As you know, we have our business meetings on the second Thursday of every month. And usually right after that, JJC Talk starts at 6:30. Now, we have a lot of various ways that you can join the museum and join JJC. Now, in order to be a part of JJC, you have to join the Baltimore Museum of Art. And to join the BMA, you would call 443-573-1800 or visit membership at artbma.org. Now, in order to join the JJC or renew your JJC membership, please call 443-573-1789. Or you can go online also to artbma.org/support/Joshua-Johnson-Council/. Also, we will have that information for you at the end of the talk. And you can also follow us on JJC, on Joshua Johnson on Facebook. Sit back and enjoy this talk tonight. I know it's going to be very exciting.
Rose, thank you so much. I always appreciate you. Folks, my name is Dave Issa. I'm the Director of Public Engagement here at the BMA. I'm going to try to keep it brief, but welcome to a last JJC Talks of the year. This has been a really exciting COVID pivot for us. It has really changed how we operate as a council. Tonight, we have with us a curatorial institution in this town, somebody who has been operating and doing really amazing things for as long as many of us can remember, with two really exciting artists. So at this point, I'm going to pass over Myrtis, Tawny, and Monica. Thank you so much, and take it away.
So good evening, everyone. Before we begin the PowerPoint presentation, I would just like to take a moment to thank the Joshua Johnson Council for inviting Monica, Tawny, and myself to participate in tonight's program. We are honored to join you and incredibly proud to have you as one of our sponsors for the Afrofuturist Manifesto Blackness Reimagined exhibition that will be presented at the Venice Biennale in 2022. As one of the oldest African-American museum support groups in the United States, your contribution supports Gallery Myrtis's effort to present Black art and culture on an international platform. And I would be remiss if I failed to acknowledge George Sissel, who is my former professor at MICA and a Joshua Johnson Council member. He serves on my advisory committee. And Jean Thompson, who is serving as a consultant on the project. Jean is also a JJC member. She is spearheading our fundraising efforts and public relations. So I am very grateful to the council and wanted to convey a special thank you to George and Jean for their contributions. Tonight, we are going to engage in a conversation with Monica Ikegwu and Tawny Chapman, two dynamic women artists who are Maryland-based. Tawny lives in Annapolis, Maryland. Monica in Baltimore. However, she is in New York, as am I. She is getting her graduate degree from New York University. So I am going to allow the artists to talk about their work, and then we will convene and have an open conversation about what it is that they're doing. I will briefly share with you. So they are two of the artists who are participating in the Venice exhibition. And then there are 6 additional artists. So I will briefly share images of their work, and then we will convene as a group and as a community to talk about the work that these dynamic women are doing, and then respond to your questions about perhaps as the curator, my role in Venice, and any other questions you may have that are art related, and information that we can share with you to help bring a greater understanding of who we are and why the art that is created and presented is culturally important. Monica, I'll turn it over to you.
Hello, I just want to say thank you for having me. I didn't write anything down, but I just want to start from the beginning and talk about the process of my art journey and how I actually got to this point right now. So for me, as a child, I would always draw, but I guess I drew more than the average child, and my parents actually noticed it. And from there, my dad was the one that mainly pushed me to do art in the first place. And I had gone to an art middle school, Suburb Magnet Middle School in Baltimore. And then from there, I went to an art high school, which was George Washington Carver Center for the Arts and Technology, the one in Towson. And then personally, for me, it was supposed to stop at high school. Because since I was little, I've always said that I wanted to be like a pediatrician, working with children, because I like children so much. And my mom, she held me to that idea of being a pediatrician. She was like, "You're going to be a pediatrician, right?" Because at the point, art was like a hobby for me. And I knew in my head that I wasn't going to go past high school with it. So when it came for college applications, I had applied to 4 schools that had nursing programs in it. And they were all done, they were ready. But my dad was actually out of the country. He was actually in Nigeria. And he called me and he was like, "Did you apply to that one school, MICA? MICA's the only art college in Baltimore." And he's like, "Did you apply?" And I was like, "No, I wasn't going to." And he was like, "You should just try it. Just try it. Let's see what happens." And then I was like, okay. So I submitted last minute and went in. And then I got into the school, and MICA was a school that actually gave me the most money. So of course I went there. So my mom's was disappointed, oh, you're not going to be a pediatrician. Oh, but it's fine. But from there, she actually wanted me to go into graphic design because of how it was like profitable in the eyes of the parents. But I actually went into painting. And to be honest with you, in high school, that's when I actually started painting. That was probably like, I want to say 7 years ago that I started painting. And for reference, I'm 23 years old. So I started painting in my sophomore year of high school because it was a required class. But before then, I had never actually started painting. But yeah, after I got into mica, that's when I really focused on painting and developing my style and developing how it looks like to this day. And yeah, that's where I really fully committed to it and decided that I wanted to do it full time. But in terms of like subject matter, right now I'm working towards like representing people in the way that they want to be seen. At mica, that's when I decided to focus on the idea, but it wasn't the idea that I was doing now. It first started with like the idea of focusing on like social, like political issues. So if you go to the next slide, I think it should be there. Let me see. Yeah, that image. So this one I did in my sophomore year at mica, and it was more so about like how society had viewed Black men. So this is one of 5 big pieces that I did. It was 5 Black men of like different shades of color. They were all dressed in black, like no emotion, like mugshot style. And like the pattern in the background actually references like a form of like violence or what they're stereotyped with, like in a negative way. So in this one, I don't know if you'll be able to tell, but it's like drugs. And it's like a blunt with like a smoke coming out of it. But like the reference of how people are jailed because of marijuana. And the red light on their face was like an indicator of how like the danger and how they're associated with just like a bad image. So I did 5 of these, and it was more so how society had viewed them and how they looked at people. And I decided what would happen if I flipped it and switched it and decided to make work that was about how people wanted to be seen instead of how they were seen in like the society's eye. So then that's when it changed in my junior year at mica, and that's what I'm still doing right now. So for the process of that, I would take on like volunteers, or I'd ask people, some family members, and I'd get them to pose for me because I take photos first and then I work from the reference photo. And then when they pose for me, I don't involve myself in that whatsoever. So they get to choose their own clothing, they get to choose their own hairstyle, any props that they want. All I do is I light them and then I just take the pictures. So like if they need help with posing, I can't help them at that point. They get to do whatever they want, and I want them to have freedom. Some people are a little bit shy, but then some people take full advantage of it, and that's like when it's really fun. And the portraits aren't supposed to be like so serious, but more so like a way to get people involved. It's like a collaboration between me and the person, because I feel like with art, people can use like, subjects or other people to like portray their ideas, and like use them as a vessel to portray their ideas instead of having them stand alone as their own person. So I'm trying to have them like evoke their own self, and then I just like paint it. So I'm trying to like customize pieces for these people. And I'm more so looking at their outside attire. Can you go to the next slide? Yeah, so this one is this is a self-portrait of me that I did back in 2019, but the way I would do it is I would take a picture of the person, and then based off of the clothing that they're wearing, I would then customize the piece around it. For this one, I was wearing like a blue puffy jacket, and then the background, I had decided to just take the same material and fabric and then reflect it in the background. And this is one of the many variations that I went through. But essentially just working and focusing on like the external view of people, because I feel like people can say a lot about themselves through their clothing. Like when people are walking down the street, you can tell like probably like their mood, their attitude, their confidence through their clothing. And like if I'm wearing sweatpants, you can tell that I'm probably tired. If I'm wearing dress in the heels, oh, I gotta go somewhere special, but just the idea of like your identity can lie in your presentation of how you want to, of how you present yourself to the world. So focusing more so on the idea of clothing as a way to speak for yourself, because paintings can't actually speak, but then the person itself through their pose, through their gesture, through their clothing can speak for them. And then next slide. This is another example. But yeah, again, just referencing the clothing, like he was wearing a leather jacket, so then taking that same leather material and then reflecting it in the background. And let me see, next slide. Oh yeah, these are actually my twin sisters. So yeah, I did have the model for me. That's the poses that they chose. But for me, this idea of presentation with the figure and having the fabric in the background, it goes through many variations. As I've been starting to do it, this one is more so like a fade with the pattern, the fabric not so evident. From the first piece that you saw, it started out as like a pattern, and it then started as a full bleed in the background, and now it's going into like a gradient. And now I'm more so playing with like flatness, like flat shapes of color alongside with the fabric, because for me, like just the same way that people can like adorn themselves with clothing, I feel like you can adorn like the background space with fabric as well. So I'm just over time, just like playing with it. Let me see the next slide. Yeah, see this one here where I would just play with flat shapes paired with the fabric, and then it's actually changed where like the work that I'm doing right now, like in the studio, I'm actually cutting out segments and then pairing that with flat shapes of color as well. But overall, I'm just working just to focus on the individual, their clothing style choices, and then customizing it for them, and then trying to involve people in the art making process, because some of the poses that that they gave me, I would have never thought of it by myself, but like involving other people. And some people, just because they're not artists doesn't mean that they don't have like creativity. So like when you involve them into it, they give you ideas that you personally like never would have thought of by yourself. Next slide. Oh yeah, this is Olivia. This is one of the ones that I love. But yeah, she was one of the ones that took full control of it. Like she came prepared. She brought her dress. She brought flowers and she cut them herself and she put them into her hair. I've actually worked with her again, but yeah, it's supposed to be like a fun opportunity to just express yourself and then give you opportunity to like, well, I'm trying to use myself as a platform to give people, you know, an opportunity to show themselves. So it's not really my ideas inflicted on them, but like I'm just trying to bring their ideas to the forefront with the platform that I have. And then the next slide. This is Rael. And this is another iteration where it's a combination of the pattern and the fabric and the flatness in order to create or mimic the cheetah pattern that was in her jacket as well. She was another one that she took really like advantage of like the space and the photo and everything. It was really fun. Let me see the next one. And then this is one of the recent ones. These are girls from my church. From left to right is Olama, Chimdi, and then Anwi. That's the title of the piece. And then from here, I just, the way that I structure it, again, is based off of the people's, their clothing, their gesture, their pose. And just the way that they're crowded together, I wanted to encapsulate them. So then I had the fabric in the background that basically like covers them as well. And then for the next one. And then this one was the most recent one out of all of them. And these are actually my cousins, Kelechi and Ogechi. And here again, this is just like an example of like people creating, having like creative initiatives or like the opportunity to be creative. I personally wouldn't have thought to pair them with flowers just because in my head, that would just be too complicated, but they gave me a challenge and I was like, okay, I can do it. But yeah, they posed and then they were like, can we add flowers? And I was like, you can do whatever you want. You can do anything you want. So then they grabbed the flowers and they posed with it and it came out like, I was like, oh, shoot, that looks nice. But just the idea of letting people have the opportunity to express themselves, to show themselves without having opinions placed on them, having to fit into a box. And I'm just, because the ideas aren't really my ideas. I'm not really working off of my own narratives. It's not really about me, more so, unless I'm doing like a self-portrait, but it's more so I'm working like, not for them, but like I'm working as a way to like bring their image to a better light, because I feel like the Black image in general, because of history, has been diminished by like stereotypes, and because of that, there's more confusion. So I want to bring more, like more positive light into it rather than like the negative images that have been put out beforehand, but trying to like offset that scale. So yeah, I think that's it. I don't know. Should I keep going?
So Tawny, would you like to talk to us about your work?
Oh, sure. I first wanted to say thank you for allowing me to speak about my work. It is an honor. My name is Tawny Chapman. I'm a photography-based artist. I, like Monica, I thought about writing something, and then I thought it would be more comfortable to just speak fluidly about the work in the setting that we are in. My work begins as photographs I've taken of someone usually that's special to me, my children, my godchildren, my nieces, nephews, other family members, and the work transforms from there. I still have no idea. I haven't come up with a word yet to describe the work. For me, they are meaningful messages, and they are layered with so many different messages, with the central message being that I am looking to convey to my sitters that they are important, they are valuable, they are beautiful. We can go to the next slide. So a lot of the work, specifically my series, The Redemption, was influenced by Gustav Klimt, specifically his golden phase. I remember the way that his work made me feel when I first viewed it. I just had feelings of regality, magnificence, beauty, and those feelings stuck with me. They're still with me. If I think of art that I view as beautiful, those works are embedded in my mind today. And that was the same feeling that I was looking to bring about in those who viewed my work, especially from that series. We can go to the next slide. And so from there, the work kind of evolved into being influenced by Byzantine art and religious iconography, specifically because those artists, historically, gold was reserved for those of importance, those that the artist wanted you to view as special, as important. And so I, in turn, am adorning my subjects similarly to that work as well. We can move on. So this is my daughter, Casey October, and this piece is titled God's Gift. So a lot of the work, all of the work really, the titles also hold a special meaning as well. A big part of the reason that I have pivoted into doing the work that I'm doing today is I started off in photography after I decided that I was no longer going to pursue a career in dramatic arts. And you know, I picked up the camera and I just kind of was bouncing from genre to genre with no real direction of what I was going to do. And then I had my son. After having my son, I focused on children. And then in 2010, my father was diagnosed with prostate cancer, and him and I agreed that I would document his battle with prostate cancer. I spent that year documenting his battle with prostate cancer, and prostate cancer ended up taking his life. And after that, my entire outlook on life, on mortality, on the world around us in general, it completely changed. And I slowly drifted away from taking commercial work for monetary gain and started to focus on the work that I'm doing now. Things like going in museums with my children and not seeing faces that we relate to, things that happen with police brutality, Trayvon Martin, and so many things just pushed me in this direction. I spent a lot of time just being frustrated and trying to convince people, look at this, you see this is happening. And I just started to do the work instead. And so that's how we're here. And this piece, I say that to say this piece is titled God's Gift. After losing my father, my daughter, Casey, I felt that she was a gift from God. I got pregnant with her while my father was sick. And it just seemed as though she carried a part of his spirit with her. And so this is from my series, The Redemption. The dresses, I definitely wanted the viewer to make the connection to Gustav Klimt immediately. The work also is a response to the policies and politics that are in place, deeming Black hairstyles unacceptable for schools and the workplace. And so through this work, I've amplified our hair as a celebration of Bantu knots and natural hairstyles and extensions. We can move on. Can we go to the next one? Oh, okay, I'll talk about this one. I was thinking the one of the family was next, but I will discuss this one. This is titled, It Was Never Your Burden to Carry. We can go back. It was never your burden to carry. And this is kind of my message to children, young girls. I feel that we are constantly saying the children are our future, and this child, you know, they're going to change the world and they're going to do this, that, and the other. But I strongly feel that that was not their burden. And these girls are holding up the world. They have the weight of the world in their hands. And I feel that it is our responsibility, those before them, to contribute to the betterment of the world. I know that a lot of them will go on and be at the forefront of major movements, as Black women usually are. But I wanted this to be a message to them that it was never their burden to carry, although I know they will go on to do beautiful and amazing things. And we can go to the family now. And so this piece is titled, He's Got the Whole World in His Hands. This is my cousin Chelsea and her beautiful family. During the pandemic, well, we're still in the pandemic, but during the shutdown, I took time to reflect on the work that I'd been doing. I had been responding and communicating from a lens of motherhood. And so most of my work featured mothers. And I noticed that fathers, which are a very important component in our lives, were missing from my work. And so I made a conscious decision to celebrate fathers, to include them in my work. I definitely didn't want to play a part in the stereotypical Black fathers are not present, because my father was amazing. As Monica just mentioned, her father was instrumental in her life. I know many fathers that are amazing, my husband, my own father. And so I thought it was important to celebrate fathers, especially Black fathers, who society will try to tell you otherwise. And we can go to the next. And this is titled, But She Already Knew They Were More Precious Than All the Jewels and Gold in the World. Let me make sure I specifically say which. So I began adding precious stones, semi-precious and precious stones to my work as well. But also with the idea that this society and the world that we live in often values things like this, jewelry and gold, more than the sitters in my work. And the title also, I remember telling, it was either this daughter, which is Kaylin, or my younger daughter that you just saw, I said to her, you're so beautiful. And she says, I know. And I took a step back and I almost said to her, you know, are you going to say thank you? And then I thought about it, you know, it just shows that something is going right, where she knows that she's beautiful. She knows that she's valuable. She knows that she's precious. And I think that often we want young girls to be humble and, you know, not know their worth and not know how beautiful they are. And so I wanted to celebrate her by titling the piece in that way. And we can go to the next. Lastly, this is my son, Cardan, and I titled this piece In Your Hoodie or Your White Tee. And this piece is meant to celebrate him. This is who he is. He walks around in his hoodie. He's a boxer. He walks around in his wife beater and his jeans. And I wanted him to know that you are to be celebrated as you are. You don't have to wear a tie. You don't have to have a suit on. You are valuable just as you are. It made me think a lot about Trayvon Martin and how he was murdered because somebody viewed him as a threat. And that was scary to me. Still bothers me to this day thinking about that. And so I just wanted Black boys to know that you're special, you're precious, just as you are, and you are to be celebrated exactly as you are. And we can, I think that is the last one.
So thank you, Monica and Tawny, for providing us with such compelling narrative and understanding of who you are as an artist and why creating work is so important to you. As the curator of Gallery Myrtis, I'm keenly aware of the importance that art plays in our society. It allows for the artists to express through their work those issues that concern them. It gives voice and empowers you. Art is your weapon. It's your way of offering a counter narrative to all the negative stereotypes that are associated with Blackness, which is in part why our exhibition in Venice is so important. And so the two of you are among the 8 artists that are being featured in the show, our Venice show. So I just wanted to take a brief moment to acknowledge the others. So Dave, we're just gonna roll through the remaining 6 images very quickly. This is the work of Larry Cook. This is from his Visiting Room series, in which these are staged photographs. And Larry's work centers around mass incarceration. And so the concerns that he's dealing with in this series is about the hopes, dreams, and aspirations of the incarcerated individual. Next, please. This is the work of Morel Doucette. Morel's work features imagery that speaks to climate gentrification, seawater rise, and he is based in Miami. And the concerns that he is dealing with in his work is the fact that developers are now moving the black and brown individuals out of their homes. Those communities tend to live at higher elevation, because folks have wanted to be close to the beach area. But now that the water is rising and there's a lot of flooding, they want to move further inland. And so now Black and brown communities that have occupied that land for generations are now being encroached upon and pushed out. So this is, he often will have, as this piece demonstrates, the floral and fauna from those communities and how that landscape that they have loved, nurtured for generations, they're now being pushed out of. Next, please. This is the work of Delita Martin. Delita is a master printmaker and multimedia artist. Her work is a celebration of Black womanhood. She often is addressing through her work the bond that women share. And many of her subjects are women in her family and close friends. So it's a celebration of women, Black women, their spirituality, and their impact on the world. Next, please. This is the work of M. Scott Johnson, one of my favorites that he's created. High John the Conqueror. High John was, a metaphorical figure, a figure from folklore, African folklore. He was the healer, the root that helped to sustain the slaves. And Scott, obviously here, as it's shown, is a sculptor. He has studied under the master sculptors, one of which was Nicholas Mukumaranwa in Zimbabwe. So we will be seeing his brilliant works during the Venice Biennale as well. Very spiritual based work. R.V. Smith, whose works are inspired and greatly influenced by Robert Colescott, really is the artist that is going to remind us of our history, the history of discrimination and the racial disparities, equitable disparities in our society. He, as you see here, he will continue to remind us of our painful past and the fact that the issues that have plagued our community for generations, we are still plagued with. So when the exhibition takes place in Venice, RV's presence will remind us that there is yet so much that we need to do to achieve racial justice. All of the works are by all of the artists are very nuanced. They deal with the complexities of Blackness. They are filled with metaphors and tropes about the issues that concern us. And I think that RV's strong imagery certainly speaks to all of those concerns. Next, please. Next, please. And lastly is Philandus Thames. Philandus draws from words. He will provide quotes from songs, poetry, Black scholars, musicians that are just profound statements about who we are. Again, he provides this vernacular that really defines us. And while these quotes and the understanding may be unintelligible to individuals outside of our society, the Black community, they certainly resonate with us. This quote, "My only sin is my skin. What did I do to be so black and blue?" is from a song sung by Louis Armstrong and perhaps others, but Louis Armstrong is the one that made those lyrics and this verse, one that really resonated with a lot of individuals. And it's really speaking to the pain of discrimination. Okay, that is it. So now we can open this up for conversation. We can take questions. I'll begin with the first and just ask Tawny and Monica about their process a little bit, because you both, the models, the figures, the body, you're both figurative in the sense that Monica, you know, your subjects play a very critical role in the work that you create, but you're a painter. Tawny, of course, that is the same for you. So there's a lot of similarities, even though your medium is very different. And I just wonder, in creating your work and adorning, now, Tawny, you adorn your figures, and Monica, you allow for your figures, just it's a form of self-expression. And I wonder if you were to do the reverse, Tawny, how would that, or have you ever allowed for your subjects to walk into your studio having adorned themselves? And then Monica, for you, what would your process be if you had to adorn your figures? You're both on mute.
That is interesting. Mostly because when I photograph my sitters, they are wearing white so that I can then go and paint, you know. And I have not found an adequate word to describe what I'm saying. So when I say to take out the dress, I'm not physically taking anyone's dress off, but in post-process, I'm fading the dress so that I can then create my own wardrobe on them, essentially. So I have not, I've not thought about having them adorn themselves. I imagine, though, that my sitters, especially when I'm thinking of my own children, they will not come to they will not come to a portrait sitting and anything that I think would convey the message that I'm looking to get across. My daughter would just have on, yeah, that's interesting. I do, like Monica, allow them to just be, and even more so, as you've seen with Joy or Peace, we didn't show that here, but we had, I had someone ask me, why is everyone so serious in your work? And my answer at that time was, no, they said, why doesn't anyone smile? And my answer at that time was because they don't have to. And because what I am speaking about, the issues that I'm speaking about are not anything to be smiled at. But when we moved on a little, we had two little girls that were laughing and I captured that and it was really sweet. So kind of moved on to allowing them to, you know, pose in different ways. But that is very, very interesting question.
Monica?
Okay, so in terms of clothing, I have no idea how I would adorn them. I feel like I kind of adorn them in my own little way because I don't like mess with the figures, like how they're posed, but I do manipulate the color to like better suit like their skin tone. So like if they're like wearing like maybe like black, I might change it to like a red and it'll like make the skin tone more brighter. But like in terms of clothing, I don't know. But like in terms of like stylistic choices, I do adorn them in like qualities to make them look a little bit better.
Awesome. Dave, do we have any questions from the group?
Actually, this is Antoinette. We do have a couple of questions that
Oh,
we're going to run
good.
through they're actually in the chat. So, and they came to me, so I'm going to just start asking if that's okay.
Yeah, please. Yes.
All right. So Jacqueline Copeland asks, will the artist be creating new works or existing works in Venice?
The artists are all creating new work for Venice.
Okay. Another question, could Monica and Tawny please talk about how they imagine their artworks connecting to the theme of Myrtis's Venice exhibit, Afrofuturism Manifesto, Blackness Reimagined? I said that quickly. Should I should I restate?
I was reading.
Yes.
I see it now.
Okay. Talk about how your work connects to the theme.
I can go first. Okay, so with the idea of like Black Afrofuturism, Blackness reimagined, for me in my head, I thought of like the future of like African Americans, people of African descent, and how like they would be seen like going forward. So for me, it's like a newfound confidence, but like not only with clothing, but also in their surroundings and how they're just comfortable with themselves. So I'm gonna slip a little detail. I don't know, Myrtis, if this is okay.
No,
But,
they're perfectly fine.
Okay. So from the pieces that were shown today, it was like a one person, maybe a group of people, and like they're like wearing their clothing and then the background is decorated. But for one of the pieces, it is has like 3 figures, and it's more so like they're on one side and the other side is a more environmental, so it connects the figures to the environment. The figures are actually me and my brothers, and then the environment was actually our neighborhood. So, and then like the figures were like just confident, nonchalant, not worried, and then like just comfortable in the area that we're in. But yeah, just a newfound confidence in the way that we present ourselves, and then confidence in the areas that we are in without feeling like being excluded or cast out.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I had no idea what Monica was creating for this exhibition, but I too have now, my subjects are being dropped in historical painting, like historical landscape paintings. So that would be in the background of them. And it's more so of, I imagine them, this is who we are. We're free, we're in environments. And so it's really interesting that you are focusing on them being in different environments as well. Recently, when I was doing a Q&A for the catalog, Myrtis is creating, someone asked if my sitters are, if my sitters are in the future or are they in the present? And it was really interesting because I'd never thought about that before, but in that moment, I realized that I'm imagining already the future that my sitters are in, because they're not in this current world. They're safe. They're not judged. They can play at the playground and not worry. And so we're already creating work that is more so set in the future instead of, and as well as the present.
Okay.
Yes,
No, go ahead, Myrtis.
no, I just wanted to add that for the exhibition, we are exploring 3 themes, and it's time, space, and existence. And so for time, it's a metaphor for an investigation of the counter histories that reconsider the role of the contributions of African Americans in shaping Western society. For space, we're looking at it through 2 different concepts. Black consciousness as it relates to Afrofuturism and the philosophies of that, with that being freedom and self-determination. And then we're also looking at it through the lens of technology, the vehicle for boundless imagination. And then lastly, through existence, it's about this Blackness in the presence of an egalitarian society and the progress of the future vision of who we are, emancipated from a Eurocentric lens. I was interviewed for an article that was written by Shantae Robinson, and she asked me about whether or not I was concerned if white people were going to be able to relate to the exhibition and the works in the exhibition. And I said, well, and no, I'm not concerned about that, because at the root of the exhibition is our humanity. And if nothing else, I hope that they can connect on that level. But primarily, the concern for the artist and for me is the future of Blackness imagined by us. And so, that that is what we are bringing. That's the experience, that's the narrative, that's the concept idea that we are presenting in Venice.
Thank you for that. There are a few more questions in the chat. One is, what is an archival pigment print?
I'm sorry?
I'm reading from the chat question.
Okay.
What is an archival pigment print?
It's just a way to describe a print that uses archival pigment, pigment that is going to last against environmental issues and for hundreds of years versus something that's going to fade very easily. And it's printed on fine art paper. I print on cotton rag by Hanamiel. And so it just describes a way of describing that the pigment is resistant against environmental debris and those kind of things.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd also like to add that it's a museum standard, so that it speaks to the conservation and the preservation of the work. So it's accepted where, for example, a digital photograph may not be, because it doesn't possess the same properties as a photograph created from pigment inks.
Yeah, and it's not as refined. Archival pigment print is more refined, whereas a digital print is not.
Correct.
Thank you for that. So Terrence Vessol, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, says this has been very touching and moving to better understand the heart behind the art pieces. Thank you for sharing. So they're not all going to be questions. Sometimes it's just going to be how people feel about what you've said, but we also want to make sure that you hear this. So another one from Tracy says, both of you are very talented and good luck in Venice. Another one, would Tawny talk about using the 24 karat gold leaf, a very ancient form of embellishment?
Yeah, sure. As I mentioned, gold historically has always been reserved for people that we should view as important, as special. And so even with the frames, when we're walking through museums, so I frame my work in gold frames as well. So each layer of the work has its own meaning. But the 24 karat gold itself, it symbolizes, it's my way of conveying to my sitters, you're important, you're valuable, and I am reinterpreting Byzantine art and religious iconography in my own way in doing this. I thought that I would move on from it, but it just speaks to the work so well. I'm just stuck on on continuing this process for now.
Okay, very good. Thank you for that. So here's another one. Oftentimes when working with artists during the process of the processing time of creating their work, I've heard of a few of them speak to how difficult it is to sell certain pieces that are close and dear to them, which is why they prefer to use archived photos. How do you feel? Well, it says, how do you feel selling or sharing works from people that you know on a very personal level? I think either one of you could address that, since you both have family members in your pieces.
Yeah, it is difficult. I find myself keeping a lot of the work, but I also I'm creating it for a purpose and for a reason, and I want it to be out in the world. I want children to walk past it. I want people to walk past it and view it. So in thinking of it in those terms, I can let it go, but I do sometimes hold on on to work as well, because they are my children. And I do feel something when I let every single piece go, but if I want it to do what I created it to do, I have to let it go.
Same thing like what Tawny said. Like some of them I really do want to keep. But I made it for the purpose of like people to enjoy it. So as long as like people are enjoying it, it kind of like offsets like the fact that I'll miss it later on. But as long as somebody is like enjoying the actual image of it.
So another comment says sometimes Afrofuturism seems to be more about sci-fi, but you seem to be talking about realism as much as imagination. Any comments or response to that? You don't have to.
I do agree. I thought that, you know, before looking more into Afrofuturism, I did, when Myrtis first mentioned the theme, I did feel a little bit stuck until we had a discussion in a meeting, and in doing more research, it made more sense that, you know, what we're doing already essentially is Afrofuturism. So it made it a little bit easier to think of it in those terms.
Yeah, definitely. We're talking about the future of Black life in this universe, this sphere, creating a utopian society. And it won't be without consideration of the past or even the present issues that we have related to racial discrimination and inequality. But it will give us the opportunity to take agency over what that is and to imagine what it can be, with the hopes of inspiring people to strive for that as a whole, as a community, as a universe. And as I said, what can be imagined can be realized. And so we want to, you know, address this concern through the perspective of the artist and the reality of what Blackness can be. So yes, I know there are those who are looking to come and have a Black Panther experience are going to be really disappointed because we need to talk about what's really happening here. And that is what the experience will be about. That is what the conversation will be centered around.
Thank you for that. There's a comment, another comment from Jacqueline that says, I can't wait to see the new work they'll create. Thank you, Myrtis, Monica, and Tawny for this inspiring conversation. You know, I do want to ask a question more from the local perspective. I mean, here we are in Baltimore, which has a lot going on, and it's not always pleasant. It's not always nice. And we're taking this beautiful, fragile, gentle work that you have just really shined the light on the beauty of who we are as human beings, as women, as Black women, as Black men. Now, how do you take that experience of Baltimore to Venice and sort of pull that into some commentary should you get asked the question? Because now that Baltimore is in the news and it could be there, that you can say, how do you come from the grit of someplace like Baltimore and you're standing in Venice in front of the most magnificent work and you have that as part of your narrative, or do you?
Yeah, that's the beauty of what we're going to bring, again, is that counter narrative to the Baltimore experience and the country, because the artists, the gallery is located in Baltimore, but the artists come from places across the country. And we need to bring to the Venice experience one that also represents who we are. We are not just a crime-ridden city. We are a city with individuals like everyone in the JJC group and beyond who are concerned with and supportive of Black culture and understand the importance of it. And we want to take that experience to Venice, and we will be bringing it back to Baltimore. We are so proud that the Reginald F. Lewis has committed to bringing the exhibition to Baltimore, host its debut in Venice. And they are going to be collaborating with the James E. Lewis Museum on the campus of Morgan State University. And I'm here in New York having conversations with organizations here to potentially bring it to New York. So it's too premature at this moment to say who might be supporting that, but I'm really excited about the possibilities of what that might be.
I just want to thank you for that. I mean, even opening the door for others to know that this was even possible. Because you think about Venice Biennale, let me say it myself, I'm going to speak for myself. I think about Venice Biennale, it seems like it's just so far away from our gallery, my collector's mind here in Baltimore, that I would have artists that I could actually, because Black art now is hot, if you will.
Oh, yes.
But to have this, but to have these artists right here who have a ramp to something on a global scale, and then to be able to have an organization like Joshua Johnson be able to give even a small amount to help sponsor and support that. It's what we have always wanted for ourselves and could see ourselves in. It's such a rewarding time to have this opportunity to want to talk to you today and to know that's where you're going and to see the work that you created before and now what you're going to create as you move into this new space and get the response from around the world as to what your work has done to touch individuals who don't look anything like us, may not have the same norms and cultural habits as we do, but they get to experience that through your work and through your conversations about your work and what you share with them as you navigate the space in Venice and what other things can inspire you to bring back. I'm a big advocate for leaving the country to go and explore more and exciting things and how that can influence and shape or reshape your thinking about where you live and how you exist in it. So I'm grateful that you were able to take this time today to share with us and look to hear more. I will offer, if anybody in the council that is on has some questions they want to ask, because I know we're at 7:30 and I do respect your time, to see if there was any other, or if there's comments that either of you have that you would like to share, because we're live. So anything you would like to share with other artists who are out there thinking about doing something like this or having an experience like this. What does that mean? What does it even feel or look like? I know I said a lot because I do that sometimes. I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, thank you for those beautiful sentiments. So deeply received and appreciated. This is a history-making moment for the gallery and for the artist. We are the first woman Black-owned gallery to be invited. We are taking 8 incredibly talented artists, narrowing down the selection, as George can attest to, it was a grueling process for me because I believe in everyone that I represent. So what I thought part of my process in making the selection was to have it multi-generational, different medium, and then invite the artists who I know that their works would be very impactful. And in addition, I just want to mention just very quickly, because beyond the exhibition itself, we as a group are seeking to make inroads into the Afro-Italian community, which is one that is not engaged or historically has not been engaged during the Biennale. And so Tawny is among the 5 artists who are going to conduct workshops, lectures, to engage, again, the Afro-Italian community. Her program focus is Afro-Italian children, and she's going to offer a photo session. So the work that you experienced in her presentation is indicative of what she's going to be doing in Venice, and that is the celebration of Afro-Italian children and their childhood. So just that's a part of the legacy that we want to leave behind. And then the artists, when we post the Venice show, they will come to Baltimore and they will lecture about their projects and the impact that it had on those communities.
Can't wait. Can't wait. This is super exciting. There are a couple more comments I just want to read. I don't want anybody to fill it. It's just thank you both for sharing. This is from Bria. Thank you both for sharing. I enjoyed learning about your work and your process. Yours is both work, and I admire your insights. Has deepened my appreciation. I look forward to seeing new work, and I wish you well in Venice. Christine says, thank you, Myrtis, for your vision to expose these wonderful artists. Congratulations, Tawny and Monica. That is so exciting. Again, I cannot thank you enough, all of you, for taking the time to share with us. And if you had any other comments, please jump right in. I just know that I'm excited to be able to hear. I mean, I've seen your work through Myrtis' site, but to hear you speak about your work and share with us has been a rewarding and wonderful experience. And I thank you for that. Does anybody have any closing comments? Otherwise, this is actually the Joshua Johnson Council's last meeting of 2021. And so we're going to be heading into 2022, doing things maybe a little bit differently, but with all the exciting things that you guys are going to come back with, you may have to find another way to collaborate on how we can share your experience with all of the people who had an opportunity to meet you for the first time today or to continue to connect with you from this point forward. So with that, if you don't have any other questions, and I don't know that any other questions are coming to me in the chat, or if anybody has their hand raised, I'm going to say thank you all very much for joining. Norma, did you have a question? Oh, I saw her hand go up. I thought she had a question. She's on mute if she's trying to ask a question. Norma, do you have a question?
No, I didn't have a question. I was getting ready to type a comment. I'm so excited for these young people that they have this opportunity. I think that they are with the best person in the world, Myrtis Bedolla, whom I know. I just think it's a wonderful place. I've been to Venice, but never for the Biennale. I wish I were going with you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you all for joining us this evening. I hope to see you at the BMA. It is open and has some wonderful shows that'll be up in January, now through January. So we're looking forward to have some in-person visits there. But most importantly, I thank you ladies again for joining us tonight to share your work with us, to share your experience both before you go and looking forward to sharing your experience when you return. So with that, I think we can bid everyone a good night.
Good night. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.